What's up, everyone? Today I'm bringing a deck for all my True Dracos. Now, True Dracos is a very interesting and unique deck that does not use an extra deck, which allows it to make use of a whole bunch of different cards. Now, before we get into this deck profile, I'd like to remind you to subscribe because 90% of the people watching this video are not subscribed. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. First off, I run the 1 Dynamite Knight, the True Draco Fighter. Now, all the True Dracos have this effect to where you tribute summon this card face up. To tribute summon this card face up, you can tribute a continuous spell trap you control instead of a monster. So basically, if you have there can be only one crackdown, just any continuous spell or trap, you can just bring it straight on out, which is pretty cool. And they also have additional effects that when an opponent activates a card effect, you can chain this effect. You can take one True Draco or True King continuous trap from your deck and either activate it or add it to your hand. I run the 2 Ignis Heat. Ignis Heat. When your opponent activates a card or effect while you control this tribute summon monster, quick effect, you can take one True Draco or True King continuous spell from your deck and either activate it or add it. I run 2 Majesty Maiden. Now this one, unlike the traps and the spells, this one searches your monsters. Next, I run 2 Vanity Fiends. Vanity Fiends cannot be special summoned, and neither player can special summon monsters, so it basically locks both players out of special summoning, which you don't really special summon at all in this deck because you basically tribute summon them to get them onto the field. And I do not run the True King's Return. I feel like True King's Return, it's good at kind of closing games out, so I feel like that's more of like a side deck option rather than the main deck. But by sacrificing your special summoning in the form of True King's Return, you can run cards like Vanity's Fiend, among some other cards. Moving on to the spells, I run 3 Disciples of the True Draco Phoenix. Disciples, you can target 3 True Draco and or True King cards in your graveyard, shuffle them into the deck, then draw 1 card. During your main phase, you can immediately, after this effect resolves, tribute summon 1 True Draco or True King monster face up. And if this card is sent from the spell and trap zone to the graveyard, you can target 1 spell trap on the field, destroy it. So all the True Draco spells and traps have this additional effect to where they can, well, mostly all of them, they tribute summon 1 True Draco or True King monster. And the cool thing about that is that does not eat up your normal summon. It's kind of like a double summon in a way. So if you have that effect, you can basically go Dynamite Knight into Vanity's Fiend. And all the most of the True Draco cards have an effect to where when they are destroyed or sent to the graveyard, that they can destroy either spells, traps, or monsters. I run 2 True Draco Heritage. Heritage, during your main phase, you can draw cards equal to the number of True Draco or True King cards types that were sent from the field to the grave this turn. During your main phase, you can immediately, after this effect resolves, tribute summon 1 True Draco or True King monster face up. And if this card is sent from the spell and trap zone to the graveyard, you can target a spell trap on the field, destroy it. I run the 1 Draconic Diagram. Unfortunately, it is at 1. This card is insane. First off, all True Draco and True King monsters on the field gain turn to attack. The first time each tribute summoned True Draco or True King monster would be destroyed by battle each turn. It is not. And once per turn, you can destroy 1 other card you control in your hand or on the field. And if you do, add 1 True Draco or True King card from your deck to your hand. So let's say you got a useless, just any useless card that you're probably not going to use. You can destroy it to get out something you're going to use, which is pretty cool. I run 2 Domain of the True Monarchs. Well, yes, this basically has the same effect as Vanity's Fiend. And most people, I think, max out on Domain of the True Monarchs and don't even run the Vanity's Fiend, which personally I don't think that is a good decision. Mainly because there is so much spell and trap removal in the game right now. You got Lightning Storm, you got Harpy's Feather Dust, you got MST, you got Twin Twisters, you got Cosmic Cyclone. You also got stuff like Evenly Matched. There's so many ways to outspell and traps now. However, monsters, that's a lot harder to do because most monster removal is in the form of extra deck monsters. Nightmare Unicorn, for example. But if you have a Vanity's Fiend on the field, your opponent cannot even link summon. Well, this just can't special summon at all. So they're not going to get into those monsters that can destroy monsters. Unless they happen to have a deck that destroys monsters, which most of the competitive decks right now don't really do that. I also run the 1 Mystic Mine. Sometimes this comes in handy, especially when you just need to slow the game down to get into a card you need. I also run the 1 Terraforming. I run 3 Pantheism of the Monarchs. I feel like the best way to run True Dracos is to run like a Draco-Monarch build. Mainly because with the loss of Draconic Diagram, it lost a lot of consistency. Thankfully, Pantheism of the Monarchs can help with that. With Pantheism of the Monarchs, you can send one Monarch spell trap card from your hand to the graveyard, draw 2 cards, so it's draw power. And additionally, you can banish this card from your graveyard, reveal 3 Monarch spells and traps from your deck, and make your opponent chooses one of them to add to your hand. So basically, it's a way to get out, let's say, Domain or your Monarch's Erupt. So it's draw power and search power, so very powerful. I run 2 the Monarch Stormforth. Monarch Stormforth once per turn, if you attribute a monster for a tribute summon, you attribute 1 monster your opponent controls as if you controlled it. So let's say your opponent has 1 monster on the field and you want to summon your Vanity's Fiend and you don't have any True Dracos to go into first. Basically, you can use your opponent's monster to get the Vanity's Fiend out, because Stormforce treats it as if you controlled it, which is really cool. It's another form of removal that can't really be stopped, because essentially, let's say your opponent has Dragoon, for example, and they've already used their negation. Basically, this outs Dragoon, because you can just tribute it for any of your True Dracos or your Vanity's Fiend. I run 1 March of the Monarchs. Most oftentimes, this ends up being Domain fodder, or not Domain, Pantheism of the Monarchs fodder. However, with March of the Monarchs, tribute summon monsters you control cannot be targeted or destroyed by card effects, so this gets those True Dracos some protection. I also run the 3 Pot of Duality. Pot of Duality reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 of them to your hand, then shuffle the rest back into the deck. So it excavates essentially. However, the one downside is you cannot special summon during the turn you activate this card. However, in True Dracos, you don't special summon at all, so that's not a problem. Moving on to the traps. I run 2 True Draco Apocalypse. Apocalypse, you can target 1 other True Draco or True King card you control, destroy it, and if you do, the attack and defense of all face-up monsters your opponent controls become half their current attack and defense. And that is permanent even if this card leaves the field. And during your opponent's main phase, you can't immediately after this effect resolves tribute summon 1 True Draco or True King monster, same as the True Draco spells and traps. And if this card is sent from the spell and trap zone to the graveyard, you can target 1 monster on the field, destroy it. Next, I run 3 the Monarch's Erupt. The Monarch's Erupt, if you control a tribute summon monster and you have no cards in your extra deck, you get the effects of all face-up monsters on the field while those monsters are face-up on the field. Or at least except tribute summon monsters. So basically, if you have a tribute summon monster, your opponent can activate monster effects just in general, which is very powerful. Next, I run 3 there can be only 1. You hardly summon with True Dracos. While yes, all the True Dracos are worms, you really only need like 1 of them. And a Vanity's Fiend, which that one is, well, a Fiend. So you can have a True Draco and a Vanity's Fiend on the field. Essentially, it hurts your opponent more than it hurts you. Next, I run 3 Solemn Judgment. Solemn Judgment, when a monster be special summoned or a spell trap card is activated, pay half your life points, negate the summon or activation. Which is very powerful in this deck because your opponent's going to be playing some sort of back row removal against it, so having this to kind of negate, like let's say they go for a Twin Twister or Cosmic Cyclone. You can just flat out negate it and keep your floodgates up on the field. Next, I run the 2 Crackdown. I was debating over Crackdown and Summon, but I feel like Crackdown is better because with there can be only 1 Domain, Vanity's Fiend, Monarch's Erupt, Stormforth. You already have so much disruption, and Crackdown is basically able to help kind of close those games. So you can basically take one of your opponent's monsters to clear the way to attack with your True Dracos, which all have a very good attack. And I also run the 1 Metaverse for, well, we run 3 different kinds of field spells, so whether you activate or add, it's going to be a good card to have. And that's going to be all for this deck performance. Let me know, what do you think of True Dracos? Do you think the True Draco Monarch build is the right way to go? Do you think maybe just pure True Draco? Do you think Masterpiece can come back? Let me know in the comments and I'll see you in the next video I make. Bye.